morning. It's Monday, September 23rd. And let's see, getting into today. Book report is due in 9 days, next Wednesday. And so you're getting down to that final freaking out. Hey, I should probably actually pay attention to that book report I've been ignoring for the past month and a half. Because now it's getting down to the last minute. And Miss Brovicast kept saying you don't want to wait till the last minute because it's impossible to do it the last minute. And then I'm going to freak out and cry. Yes, you are correct. FJ Spirit Day is tomorrow. Make sure you wear something FJHE and we get points for it. Shirt orders are due Wednesday if you're wanting the Heroes Team t-shirt. Story homework number 2 is due tomorrow. And then you're going to have this bell working, which we were getting ready to go over in just a moment. This is the homework due tomorrow. Once again, you can either do the questioning bits, you can do the lettery bits, or you can do the 7 LME bits. And this is all going to be due tomorrow. If you have questions, hook me up, let me know. And then bell work. Those of you at home, you're going to want to hit pause so you can see the screen after I explain it to you. You're just going to copy number 1 down exactly. It's just a definition. 2, you're going to fill in, and we'll help you with that one. And then 3 is you trying to come up with your own examples. They're probably going to be awful, but that's completely okay. Now, for the rest of you that are playing the live version, which is not you being on your iPad and making Mr. Brovicast be mean to you, because now it's time to learn, and that would be absolutely ridiculous. 1, irony is going to be one of the tougher things we do in English. Irony is one of those things where you kind of either understand it or it completely blows your mind and does not work. And so we'll sort of do our best. We're going to show you a whole bunch of examples today to try to get you going in the right path. And so what it is the use of words to express something different from and often the opposite to their literal meaning is the difference between the expected result and the actual result. That is the main form of irony. There is a type, there's situational irony, which is what we're mostly going to deal with today, where you're going to set up a thing to happen and the opposite of what you think happens. There's visual irony, which we'll also show you today, which is a picture, where it's the opposite of what you expect to happen in the picture. There's also verbal irony, where you say the opposite of something. I use verbal irony in class all the time. Many of your teachers probably do. It's where you say one thing, but you mean the opposite of it. As an example, let's say you don't turn in your homework. I go, hey, good job. Real proud of you on that one. I'm saying one thing, but I mean the opposite of it. There's a word for that type of verbal irony called sarcasm. Nicely done. That's sarcasm. Sarcasm doesn't work if you don't understand irony. Because if you don't do your homework and I go, hey, good job, I'm proud of you. And you're like, oh, he's finally proud of me. I'm never going to do my homework. Yay! And I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. Like, but that's what you said. And so you have to make sure you understand how that whole sarcasm thing works. You're like, it went right over my head. Those of you who've seen the Guardians of the Galaxy with Drax, and he was like, he went over and he was like, nothing goes over my head. Because he feels like he's all strong. It's the same thing. Once again, sarcasm went right over his head. Drax. So now, back to here. Part blue, where it says what a fireman does. What is it we expect a fireman to do?
Put out fires.
The opposite of that would be?
Doesn't put out fires.
And there's any number of answers you can come up with. This is just our practicing stuff. I put catching on fire. And so you have them stopping a fire, the opposite being if they were to catch on fire. What a DARE officer does?
Keep you safe.
Teach kids not to do drugs.
There you go. It's something about don't do drugs.
And don't do drugs. I put that
And the opposite, do drugs. There you go. I put, you know what DUI is?
Yeah.
Drugging under influence.
And what a dentist does?
Fix his teeth.
Works for me.
Get the cavity.
And
Let
opposite?
your teeth rot.
Gives candy.
I said let your teeth rot.
I put has bad teeth himself. And then what an English teacher does?
Teach
English.
Opposite.
Does
not teach English.
Doesn't even know how to read.
I put misspell his own name. And so a lot of what you guys put down is not ironic.
I said let
That's
you be
fine.
dumb.
This is the baby step section. So I just wanted to get you thinking about opposites. Now I have a whole list of examples where we're going to slowly start training you. If you've not done bottom part yet, that is what you get to work on this next part as we go through it. And eventually you can just sort of write down some examples. My goal is to eventually get you there. Bernie.
So is it okay for the opposite for the English teacher? Can we put torture kids?
Ouch. I mean, sure, that's not the opposite, but it brings you happiness. I'd hate to rob you of that. All right. So now, our irony training. I'm going to give you examples, and hopefully as we start getting through it, this is going to start making more sense to you, and you'll be able to start predicting them ahead of time. So the first one, a made in China sticker.
Made in Japan.
Looks something like that. What would one It's ironic where I found this, because most of these are examples that have come to me over the years. And so this one was on the 4th of July. I was at a parade with my daughters, and there was a thing they were handing out. And on this particular thing, there was a Made in China sticker. And I was like, oh, well, that's incredibly ironic that this sticker is on this particular item. Any idea what item it was that I had? Hartman?
What's it called? Firework?
No. That's what you would expect. But if you're
American flag?
there you go. It was on, they were handing out little American flags for all the kids to wave, and on the stick of each one, there was a little sticker that said Made in China. And I'm like, wait a minute, all of our little flags are made in China. I'm like, ooh, ironic. And then when I pointed this out, I had a kid in class go, Mr. Brovicast, where do they make those stickers? And I went, well, wouldn't that be ironic? Because where would you expect them to be made?
China, but they're made in Japan.
There you go. So if you find out they're made like in America or Japan or anywhere that's not China, that'd be ironic. The opposite of what you're expecting. If you find out the company president of Chevrolet, what would be ironic there?
He's not really the CEO.
Hang on. Close, not quite though. Tailby,
My dad's different car.
what kind of car?
Lamborghini.
Sure. And so you would expect a guy that runs Chevrolet to drive a Chevrolet, but if all of a sudden he pulls up in his Lamborghini, you're like, wait a minute. He's like, well, they make better cars. You're like, what? And so that's where you have the idea that would be ironic.
That's
I put Ford with the same idea.
Boo!
I hate Ford.
Ford's
If you find out the employees of Microsoft,
I know this one.
Elijah,
They use Apple.
there you go. If you see one of the employees there using an iPhone, that would qualify as ironic.
You took
because-
that pretty soon because that's the iPhone 10X.
Oh my god.
Oh, I see my phone. iPhone 11 is coming soon.
It's already out, my
Now, both of these are real life examples of kids I've had in class, so I got to use them. It's the joy of once you've gone through my class and you get to become part of my class. Cozy? It's pretty close, yeah. I had a girl named Joy and a girl named Delight. Joy was in first period and Delight was in third period. Joy was not a joy. She was one of those grumpy, mean kids who sort of like wore the dark clothing and like frowned at me all the time. And so I'd call her, I was like, Joy's like, "Grr," and I'm like, okay. And so it was fun because teaching irony, other kids in the class were like, look at her. Like on the day of going through irony, and the fact that we had Joy who was always like frowning and stuff like that, and I'm like, she's not saying anything. And then girl Delight, I'm always worried I'm going to end up having like a cousin or something like that show up in class one day. Delight was in third period, and she was the school bully. And so she was a girl who routinely got sent to the office for beating up other kids. And it's one of those things. And that was one where we got to that one in class, because we were talking about that, and I had a kid in class go, do you mean like Delight? I'm like, what? And he was like, oh. I look over and Delight's like, "Rrr," and I'm like, yes. And so Delight would be an example of irony because she was not a...
She actually beat up kids.
No, she just punched them in the hallway. She didn't handle her emotions well, so oftentimes she'd get mad and the kids were like, you looking at me? I'm not... Ah! And she'd go attack the kids. She'd get sent down to the office. I'm like, dear, do you know what your name means? Yeah, it means I'm going to beat you up. I'm like, that is not what that means.
She actually said that to
Ooh, we have a holiday called Labor Day. How do we celebrate Labor Day?
by taking food.
What does Labor Day mean?
Work.
So we celebrate National Work Day by not going to work. So that once again is ironic. The fact that we celebrate a day for working by going, let's sit around and do nothing.
Yeah. I can sleep.
We have a unit coming up in January and February where my kids who get in the most trouble for talking seem to hate this particular unit, which I usually point out as being rather ironic. Any idea which unit that would be ironic for my kids who like to talk to hate? Speech. Nicely done, Juggles. We have a speech unit coming up where you have to talk in front of the class. And my kids who lose a lot of the points for talking, they're like, I don't want to give a speech. I'm like, you talk all the time. But that's different because kids are looking at me. I'm like, they're looking at you this way too. I know, but I'm just weird. I'm like, I accept. And so the fact that you think if all you do is talk, you like speeches, but
I don't want to get in trouble.
ironic, says the kid talking nonstop.
Exactly my point.
Not still talking. And we have our Drive Carefully sticker. Once again, this came from an actual story. I was driving, I think to the grocery store, and I pulled up behind a car, and this car looked like the Incredible Hulk had grabbed it and just like smashed the back of it, because it was like the whole back end of it was torn up. But there was something like on the bumper, and I'm like, what is that? So I kept like getting closer and like trying to figure out what was on the bumper, and it turned out to be a "Drive Carefully" sticker. And so it was like one of those. It was like smashed into the bumper. And I was like, that's ironic. They have a "Drive Carefully" sticker on a smashed car. I was like, ooh, I'm going to get a picture of it. So I got out my phone, which has a little camera on it, and I was trying to like zoom in, and the light changed. The car took off. And I was like, oh, no, you don't. And I was like driving after them, trying to get a picture of it, holding up my phone, until I realized the irony of me hitting a car, of trying to take a picture of it, trying to teach irony about that. I was like, I should probably back off. So I did not. I ended up letting the car do not have a picture of it because I did not want to plow into the back of it. So you'll just have to use your imagination. And instead I got that one instead. But yeah. So the fact that a car that was smashed in the back had a "Drive Carefully" sticker. AJ.
What about
That's actually coming up in a moment too. I have another story to go along with that one. More examples. You find out the president of an airline who has a phobia of
Heights.
There you go.
Actually,
and so they have a phobia of heights, would qualify as ironic because you figure that'd be the one thing they would not be afraid of if they run an airline. Elijah.
My dad, he's actually a pilot, but he's afraid of heights.
He's a walking irony.
It's hilarious.
We used to have a teacher here whose name was Mrs. Music. She's now over at Riverside. And she closed. She actually taught science. But yeah, the idea is she did not teach music, nor could she sing.
No.
According to her, she married a guy named Mr. Music, which then made her Mrs. Music. And she was like, I married him because of his name, not because he could sing. And so the idea that the fact that she could not sing made it rather ironic that her name was Mrs. Music and she taught science. So once again, getting the idea of how irony works. Now my next story. The I Heart Kids sticker. Leaving the Walmart in Noblesville, that little super Walmart. I was coming out, went around the little roundabout, looking up for the light, and I pulled up next to it, and there was a car to my left, had one of these little sticker things in the back window, it had the little I Heart Kids, and I was like, I heart kids too. I know exactly how you feel. And I saw the kids in the back seat, and there was two of them, and they had their little faces smashed against the window. And I'm like, well, that seems kind of weird. And so I got closer, and I realized the mom and dad in the front seats were smoking cigarettes with all windows up. And so you could see like the smoke like billowing into the back seat, and the little kids were like against the windows trying to get into the fresh air. And I realized they don't heart kids. They heart killing kids. And so it was the irony of the fact that here was a car saying, I heart children, while they were in the process of torturing them with the whole idea of the smoke in the backseat, stuff like that.
Did you
Well, I got ready to take a picture of that one also, and I did. I got out my phone, and I turned over to it, and I was like, this would be great. And I was trying to get it so I could get a picture of the kids and the smoke and the thing in the back window, when apparently people find that creepy. When all of a sudden, the people in the front seat turned over to look at me, and I was taking a picture, like, whoop! I'm like, look in this direction, and I took off. So once again, don't have a picture of that one either, because apparently they were
Did you do anything about it though?
What? There's nothing illegal about it, it's just immoral bad parents. Like, you can't
so
call it
child
child
abuse.
abuse.
They should go to jail for that. Trying to kill their parents.
Another real life situation. I played basketball on Sundays in a league, and there was a guy who showed up with a giant NBA tattoo, like all over his arm. And when he showed up, I was like, oh man, this guy. But then it turned out to be rather ironic. Why would it be ironic? He's trash. He was awful. I've never seen someone miss so many layups, like weighing it off the rim and stuff like that. I'm like, you have a tattoo. But apparently he was not good at it whatsoever. Now, just being bad at basketball, that's not ironic. But when you have a giant tattoo of the sport and you're bad at basketball, that makes it a bit more ironic. I thought about pointing it out to him, but it seemed kind of mean. Like, man, look at you, you're awful. I'm not that mean of a person. Now, I have visual irony. So it's going to be a picture, and we're going to see if you can figure out what is ironic about the picture.
The fire.
So now you're starting to get the idea of how irony works. the fire truck, because what is it fire trucks are supposed to do? And then what happened here? So there's your iron.
Takes out the truck.
Take
out the trash.
No, they just use their.
Oh my god. Face.
So what is ironic here?
It says American, but
It's American.
And so this would be fireworks. And fireworks being made in China, not ironic. But the fact they named these fireworks American Freedom, and where do we make American Freedom? In China. That's what's going to qualify.
Okay.
Found this one at McDonald's.
What? On McDonald's.
They spelled it wrong.
McDonald's.
Scholarships.
So, spelling something wrong, not necessarily ironic. Why is it ironic they spelled this wrong?
Because there's
Supposed to say scholarship.
And so the idea is to take kids to college and which is make you more educated, and apparently whoever did it, not educated at all.
It's
How was McDonald's?
What do you
expect?
He's working at a McDonald's.
Alright, and this one.
American Freedom.
So what is ironic on this one?
It's made in Mexico, but it says American.
Once again, just making it in Mexico doesn't make it ironic. But what do they call the crayon?
American.
So yeah, when you call it the American crayon, and then you make it in Mexico, that's where your irony comes in. So just having an American crayon, not ironic. Having a crayon made in Mexico, not ironic. Having both of them together makes it ironic.
The dog ate the dog thingy.
What is this DVD supposed to do?
Train a dog.
And what did the dog do?
Train
it.
it.
Train
it.
This pops up quite a bit.
Chew it.
I found another one. Yeah, the no chew deterrent, and of course, ironically, that's the one thing the dog chewed up. And you're like, dog, I'm teaching you irony.
Douglas.
All right, on this one.
It's not hard to see.
You can't see the
Oh my
two.
god.
Oh.
Okay.
I can't even see the two.
I can't see it.
No, it's a children's book thingy.
Under 3. Oh
It's
my
a
god.
Small parts not for children.
Warning.
There you go.
Under 3.
So the fact that it is a present for a 2-year-old, but once again, at the bottom, warning, not for children under 3, and you're like, you had one job.
You should at least put
Restrict our
4.
country. Speak
Our
English.
country.
Oh wow.
So what is ironic about this protest
They
sign?
spelled it A-R-E instead of O-U-R.
And so once again, just misspelling it, not ironic. But what is it they're angry about?
No one's
English.
People coming into our country who they say can't speak English, and then it turns out they can't speak English
Well,
themselves.
technically they are speaking English. They're
True.
But they
spelling
can't
it
spell it.
incorrectly.
No, they're just
So here you go.
Oh,
Mango juice says
I love that.
mangoes are a natural source of vitamin A. Mango juice. So what would we expect when we come to this part of it?
it says vitamin.
Vitamin A,
That might
0%.
That might
Wow.
be 0.01.
So once again, you would expect the one thing it would have would be vitamin A, and then it does not.
Oh, look, it looks like Mr. Mr. Bro when he was a kid.
What is ironic on this one?
He's
There you go.
He's a madman.
Well, we are smiling now.
Your smile has arrived, and apparently his smile.
Turn that front upside down.
Mad or something?
It's late.
Yeah, this is sliding door company.
So that's what makes it ironic. So we have the sliding door company, and when we get to the business, the one door you think they'd have out front,
It's a
sliding
sliding
door.
No, maybe it's that hamburger.
You have to open it, not slide it.
Mr. Bro, you don't know. Maybe
Burger salad.
It says burger.
Burger
Oh, that
sauce.
says the
But
it's a
it's
sandwich. That is such a sandwich.
That's
There
a
you
bagel
go.
sandwich.
burger sauce, but then on the picture that goes with it,
It's burger.
Bagel
Sandwich.
sandwich.
it is not a burger, it is a sandwich down there.
The bagel sandwich.
Cyclist space.
It's in the bike lane.
Give cycle.
And then there's
Oh my
a
gosh. Put it in the cycling space.
There you go.
Wow.
The whole point is you're trying to give cyclists space, they put up a sign for it, and then
And-
block the lane, so you have to go
Why
out.
would
People are dumb.
Why don't you put it on the grass?
Exactly.
This so you
Like
can-
putting it on
What
the
grass?
Cycles.
spelling test for a kid.
Oh.
He misses every word but the word illiterate.
Come on.
Do you know what
All
illiterate
these
means?
words like me are.
Able to read and write.
That the ability to read and write.
He only spelled one right.
The only word he spelled correctly is the word that means you can't spell words correctly. Again,
Blame him. I couldn't spell some of
Mom,
it.
now what if they did this?
I mean, maybe if I studied
Please ask for assistance.
Oh, that said send help.
Self-help.
No, I thought it said send help.
Self-help.
Oh, self.
I see it. It's so
Please ask.
not
It says
self-help.
self-help, but it says like
Make
it's
these people
at
feel
self-help.
there you go.
I don't get
Self-
it.
It says
They
self.
had
Books to
one
help you
job.
help yourself
One.
are on the top shelf. But in order to get to the books to teach you how to help yourself, you have to ask for help.
That's
Wow.
So once again,
That's mean.
opposite of what's expected. There you
It's
go.
so bad.
All
It's a.
The C.
Oh,
architecture.
I can see on the
No, it's in the brain.
They had bad.
And once again, just having to do that doesn't make it ironic. But what is this a college for?
Architecture.
Architecture and planning ahead. And then apparently we did not plan
The
ahead.
C's all the way over
It
there.
goes over there inside.
You people are dumb. These people are small.
It says mountain.
Everything but mathematics. This is not
A lot of it.
It says Mountain Dew.
It says it's
Still
everything.
makes it ironic.
There is no mountain.
Just because it
There is no
exists doesn't make it not ironic. It just means you have lots of examples of irony out there.
This is
What
Mountain
if you
Dew.
press the box door and it turns into
Warning, do not put beverages in cup holders.
Wait, isn't that what it's for?
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Ironic that they built that.
Your
and don't
phone
teach
goes
them things
off.
in there.
Dumb.
Says do
You
not
people
put
are dumb. Wow.
Don't let the past make your decisions for today. Oh my god.
Bro, you spelled four.
Not just four.
I thought that said
Oh, wait.
fantasy.
Yes.
Don't let the past
This
you are
civic-
Oh.
I thought that said fantasy.
You have now been trained on irony. Tomorrow we start reading a story to see how well you figure it out.
Spell